Hello and welcome to the Crochet Circle podcast. This is episode 45 and it's called None Shall Pass. And that's a reference to yarn. No yarn shall pass my threshold. I'm on it with my yarn ban. I'm being really good with it. My name is Faye and I record this podcast once a month. It comes out on the first Friday of every month. And I am based in Cheshire in England, although the accent is very much Scottish. Podcast's been going for a good long while now, and thank you to all of the new subscribers. If you don't already subscribe, hit the subscribe button on YouTube or hit the subscribe button when you listen to it through Podbean. So many more people are listening through audio, which is lovely. So welcome to all of you new audio listeners. I just waved at you, like, I don't know why. You cannot hear me waving, although I am now telling you I'm waving, but hello to you. The audio numbers are just going up and up and up, which is lovely. So I'm really chuffed that people are finding the podcast, because I try really hard to make it quite evocative through my my terminology, my language about what it is that I'm crocheting, the colours I'm using. So hopefully that comes across. I get nice feedback on that it does, so long may that continue. And for all the new folk that are coming in through YouTube as well, nice to have you on board, and thank you for coming and spending some time with me. If you want the show notes, they always go up in the Podbean app. There's always a link to them from the drop down box on the YouTube slides, and I put all of the links to any pattern I'm using, any yarn I'm talking about, anything that's come in through Feeding the Habit goes in there. Basically anything that I think I can pinpoint you to, then that's what I do, just to give you the most direct route to go and look up that person or go and buy that thing that you've seen that I've shown off in the podcast. So I try to take a lot of the work out of it for you, but the show notes is where you get all of that detail. So in this month's podcast, this is the way it works is what you get is what's happened in the month before, but I would call this the August podcast. And I have got Old Dog New Tricks. What else is there? There is Final Destination, an En route, some Feeding the Habit, but not what you might think. There's also an update on Perth Festival of Yarn project that I'm working on, and also a big up. So I have been talking about this for a couple of podcasts, but I'm being really monogamous with my crafting. And that's in part because if you're viewing, you can see it behind me, my blurred line sweater. I'm working to a deadline with that, and I want to do a really good job on it. So I'm not doing any other like personal crochet until that is done. I'm doing, I've got other commission stuff that I have to do and other design work that I want to work on. So that's going on in the background. But again, that's all one at a time. I'm not doing multiple projects. So like I've got one crochet design one at the moment, and then blurred lines, and that's it for crochet. And I've got no knitting designs on and one pair of socks, and that's everything that I have got on as a project that's live at the moment. And what that means is that sometimes you do just get, especially when it's a really big project, you get a little bit bored with doing the same stitch or thinking about the same project all the time, or sometimes even the weight of it through the summer. So my blurred line sweater is a corridale and mohair mix. It's really warm, so I've been working on that through the heat of the summer, and I've definitely known I've been working on it, and sometimes I've just been longing to work on something in a cooler fibre or on a smaller basis, but that's not a luxury that I can have at the moment. But for the Old Dog New Tricks, what I wanted to talk about is actually getting together your swatch. When you're coming to the end of a big project, I think it's really good to get the swatch ready for your next big project before you finish the other one. So let me show you what I have been doing, because I've said that as soon as blurred line is done, I want to make the bark sweater. and I know that I'm going to play about a lot with the gauge with the bark sweater, because I want to use a different weight of yarn. I want to use a different blend of yarn than what is suggested in the project. And frankly, it usually takes me a couple of days to work with different hook sizes for a swatch, because what I'm looking for is the blocked gauge, not the unblocked gauge. So the sweater that I'm working towards is the bark sweater, and it's by Sidsel Sangild. And the way that she has it in her finished object, it's quite an open texture. It uses front post treble crochet. It's double crochet in the pattern because it's using US terminology. But it's a very open, feels like quite a chunky sweater, and that's not my style. I'm quite broad on the shoulder, and if I put something on that is that kind of broad and chunky looking, it's really not going to do a lot for my shape and size. So what I want to be able to do is create a smaller looking texture within my jumper. So if I'd finished Blurred Lines, it then would have taken me 2 days to get the swatch together for the bark sweater, whereas I want to finish that one, and while Blurred Lines is on the blocking mat, I want to be able to start bark. So I took a little bit of time out. It took me about an hour, I would say, to start pulling together my little swatch, working in the round, and that's now dry. So I now know exactly what gauge it is I'm looking for, what hook size I want to try my sweater in, and I know how I can start developing the pattern to make it into a fabric and a texture that I want to wear. But frankly, had I waited until Blurred Lines was finished, that would have been another 2 days of me then waiting to get this swatch back to get the information I need to be able to start on my bark sweater. And one of the things that I've realised is that time when I'm waiting for the swatch to come back out, when I've got all of the energy and all the enthusiasm to start a new project, what usually happens then is I'll start something else, and that's one of the ways that I get into like a multiple whip situation, which I'm really desperately trying not to have this year. So I took an hour out, that's it, and I've got the details I need because I've already done my swatch. Now when I did this, I thought my Blurred Lines was maybe about a week away from being finished, and it's not, and I'll explain why in a little more detail shortly. And the other thing that Old Dog New Tricks is that rather than just doing one swatch in one hook size, what I've started doing recently is I started off with a 6mm hook, and then I moved down to a 5mm hook, because my gauge, if I think that I don't like the 6 and the 5 is too tight, then a 5.5 is where I can go to. So what I've been doing is missing out a hook size and going down to the next. So I then don't have to do a 6, a 5.5, a 5. I can just work out whether I think the 5.5 would be better. As it is, I really like the texture that I'm getting down on with a 5mm hook. So that's what I'm going to go for with my bark sweater. And thank you, I know lots of people came back and said one of the concerns over the bark sweater is that it can stretch quite a lot over the bust area. And you all know I'm quite busty. And so one of the things that I was trying to take into account when I did this swatch was keeping the chains, which is where the leaf and the bark pattern comes out, keeping them really quite tight so that they don't have the same amount of stretch as maybe they do on other people's versions of it. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to counteract that. So that was great information that you guys passed me. Thank you. So swatch early is the crux of it, and then as soon as you've finished one big project, you are straight on it with your next project. So the yarn that I was using for that swatch, I spoke about this last time round, is the British Breeds yarn that I got from John Arbon Textiles. It is 80% Romney and 20% Corriedale, so it's lovely and soft. I know that it softens up again when it's blocked, and it's almost got like a butteriness to it. It's lovely. It crochets really nicely. I also know that it knits nicely because I did the Canisp jumper with it, and it's a sport weight, so it's 333 meters per 100 grams, whereas the yarn used in the bark sweater is actually a light fingering of 4-ply. So I'm changing it up quite a lot, but it seemed like a very easy pattern to just add more yarn repeats into. So as with all of the others, I will have really decent project notes up for it when I start on my bark sweater. I'm excited to get to that. And in honour of the bark sweater and doing my little swatch, I thought I'd put my coffee in my bark mug, which is a mug that I made at Pottery, and I love it. I wasn't sure it was going to turn out right, but actually it really did. So next up is Perth Project Runway update, which is also a bit of an en route because I'm being monogamous. And I really thought I was so close to getting towards the end with my Blurred Lines sweater. I'm using yarn from Bathing Sheep's Clothing. I mentioned a moment ago that it is a 50% Corriedale, 50% mohair mix. You're going to hear a lot more about Corriedale coming through as a fibre. I think it's a really good swap out for merino. I suspect it might be slightly cheaper for people to buy in as well. I think it performs just as well as merino, but I actually feel it's got a little bit more character to it as well. So I really like using Corriedale as an option. So if you see it, go and have a little squish of it and see what you think. But I suspect you're going to see a lot more Corriedale coming onto the market globally, not just within the UK. So go and have a squish of it, see what you think. Particularly sock yarn, I think you'll see a lot more of it coming through in sock yarn. So, having thought I was going to whiz through Blurred Lines, I moved into my second skein on the main body of the, I was going to say corrugated, that's because I was saying Corriedale, and that would be a mashup of Corriedale and variegated. I moved into the second skein of my variegated yarn, and it was quite dark when I did it. Lesson learned there. I was crocheting in bed, and I didn't notice that there is ever so slightly a change between the two skeins. It's one of those things, it happens with hand dyed, it's something to be aware of and look for. I couldn't see a difference in variation in the skeins, but as I've crocheted it up, I can definitely see a difference. So the top half is a bit brighter, it's got a bit more clarity, and in the bottom half the peachy tones are a bit more peachy pink tones, it's a bit darker, and I can see a very definite cut off from one skein down to the next. And same because the yoke has mainly been done with the brighter skein, and then where I've added the end of the second skein to start the sleeves, it's in that darker tone, and I just think it's really obvious. If this was just, hold on a second, parcel. Hello. Hiya.
Hiya, you alright?
Yeah, good, thank you. Right. That was exciting stuff arriving, which I might show you in a wee bit. Come back to Blurred Lines. If this was just for me and I wasn't particularly showing off to anybody else, I might just wing it and continue going. But having just introduced the third skein in on the arm, it's back to that brighter. So I've got two skeins that are bright, one skein that is darker. And to be fair, Deanne says right the way through the pattern, change and alternate your skeins up for the variegated, and she's spot on. I should have done it, I just didn't see the colour change, and I wasn't in good enough daylight when I made the skein changeover, so 100% my fault. So when I thought I was whizzing through Blurred Lines and I was like going to be finished by the end of July, that's not happened. What I now have to do is rip back that first sleeve, use the brighter skein 3 for all of that sleeve and see how that works up against the main body, and see whether there's a slimline chance that actually having the sleeve in the one same colour right the way down just works and it looks okay. Because if it doesn't, what I'm going to have to do is rip back all of that skein in the main body, which is hours and hours and hours worth of work, and then I'm going to have to use the remainder of my third skein to alternate with the darker skein and try and blend it in a little bit. So I'm gutted because, you know, when you see the end in sight and you're like, yes, and I'd already broken, I've done all of the fading back to the main colour, so I was about to do the blue and then the ribbing, and I know in my heart of hearts that it's not right, and the whole point of this project was to go and showcase crochet, and I'm not going to do myself, the podcast, and all of you a disservice by taking something that I know isn't right. So I need to suck it up and just rip it back, I think. But I'm going to try the sleeve thing, because if it doesn't make any difference, then I've at least tried something to make the difference first of all, rather than just ripping back. But at some point you're going to see me on Instagram just with a massive frog party going on. That might be on Thursday when I'm on the ferry heading to Northern Ireland. I know it's coming, but I may as well try one thing first. So that is update on Blurred Lines, which I'm still loving. It's the best fitting crocheted jumper I've ever made. It fits really well. The space, which I've talked about before, because I'm wide shouldered and I'm like reasonably muscly, quite often the space given for the arms from the shoulder down isn't enough, and I really struggle with that. So then I get too hot, and then I just feel manky when I wear that woolen things that I've made. Whereas this has got a really nice and nicely fitted amount of space around my sleeves. It fits well across the back, it fits well across the chest. So yeah, it's a great pattern, it really is. It's one of the best written patterns I've ever worked from, and it's totally on me. The issues that I've got are totally on me. I should have been looking for them, but I'm really gutted. Right, let's pretend Blurred Lines is my happy space. Let's just pretend. It will be again, it won't take me long, and I've got a lot of travelling to do over the next week or so as I head over to Northern Ireland, so I will just put concerted effort. But this is one of the reasons that I started this project so early, is because I knew I needed time, that if I made a mistake, I needed that time to be able to pull it back and make it good again. Petted lip. One of the things I should add to that is that I've been keeping my project notes for Blurred Lines up to date on Ravelry. So if you wanted to see any changes that I've made, because I have changed hook size, I've got a slightly different gauge of fabric, and I haven't done the increases after the waist shaping, because it's just not what my body proportions are like. I basically come in a little bit after my bust and then I go straight down, so there's no need to increase because I don't have that hourglass figure. I'm actually quite boxy. So if you want to go and see my project notes, they are on there. I think it's called Perth Festival of Yarn Blurred Lines, something like that. Or if you just go to my Ravelry account, my name is Ma Dashper on Ravelry. You can find all of my projects there, and I'll be doing exactly the same thing for Bark. Because as we know, I am incapable of just following a pattern. I have to put my own spin on it and get to the fabric that I want. So I'll do the same for Bark. Just thinking about how I could have maybe dealt with that differently in the future. When I did my swatch for Blurred Lines, one of the things that I could have done was actually swatched with each of the 3 variegated skeins, or each of the skeins across the board. And that way that would have shown me any colour differences that were going. And I don't think you need a lot. You probably only need like maybe 4 or 5 rows to be able to see if there are any colour changes between the skeins. And that would have given me then decent information to not have made this mistake. So definitely that's something I would do next time if I'm working on a large garment. I would swatch each of the skeins to make sure that there are no colour variations. I've definitely learned my lesson with this one, because I reckon that's about 20 hours that I'm pulling back, which means 40 hours put into it. So I do have one finished object under Final Destination, and that is another variation of the Campaign shawl. By the time you are listening to this podcast, if you listen on the Friday morning, I will be in Northern Ireland. I'll be over in Whitehead and I will be setting up my stand for that festival. And Kinbane is the shawl that's going free in the programme. So if you're going to the festival, you will get that. You'll get that for free, which is very exciting. And I've done it as a 3 skein colour version, which I showed off in episode 43, but I wanted to try it as a 2 skein version as well, because it's a really good project for using up scraps of yarn. So you could use as many colours as you wanted or go down to 2. It's really up to you how you want to work that that pattern. And there was a collaboration that happened. Like, if my worlds collided, it couldn't have been better than this. John and Juliet Arbin gave some yarn over to Becky and Marcus at River Knits to dye up on their behalf, and it was the Exmoor sock yarn, which happens to be the yarn that I'd chosen to use for Kinbane. So when Becky and Marcus were showing me the colours, Becky asked whether I could crochet up a Kinbane in the new variegated colourways, which I did, because I wanted to try a 2 skein version, a 2 colour version anyway, and so that's what came of it. And the 2 colours were Piston Broke and Ship Happens, because they were all kind of puns on boating terminology, because River Knits. So whilst I can't show you the finished object, the Final Destination of that shawl, other than popping a photo up and putting a photo into the show notes, what I can show you are the 2 colours that I was using. So the main colour was a really rich copper with elements of brown in there, and it is basically all of the copper tones in one variegated skein of yarn. So quite a rusty orangey brown colour. It's beautiful. And we decided to pair that up with a green which has got teals and mucky green running through it, not dissimilar to when copper goes towards that verdigris set of colour, not just quite as turquoisey as verdigris can be, but when it's much darker. So they're the 2 colours that we paired up, and I think these were the 2 colours that sold out fastest when they put them up on sale, because they go so beautifully together. They're really lovely, and this yarn crochets particularly nicely. It's quite a lowish twist. Every now and then it was splitting on me a little bit, but not a lot, not enough that I would be concerned about it. So that was what the two colour version went out in. Fortunately for both parties, unfortunately for you guys, all of that yarn sold out. Like, it went live less than 2 weeks ago. It's all gone. There is none left. They took it to Fibre East this weekend, and I think it's all gone from River Knits were selling it, and so were John and Juliet, and it's sold, gone. There may be future collaborations, I don't know, but if there are, definitely keep an eye out for it. So that's the only Final Destination that I've got this month, because bloodlines, because monogamous. So this is going to keep on happening unless I've got smaller projects on the go. There will just be less time spent on roots, because I don't have loads and things on the go. But What I can say is if you are thinking about being a little bit more monogamous with your projects, I'm definitely feeling the benefit of it. I feel like I'm cracking through projects really quickly. I don't have that guilt associated with knowing that I've got certain things that are languishing, because I don't have lots of projects that are sat languishing, so I don't feel like I've paid a little bit of love and attention to a yarn and then put it down and just left it. My general crochet well-being feels a lot better for just really focusing in and concentrating on fewer projects at a time. I can't tell you how much better I feel about it. It's really good. So if you're thinking about trying it, go for it. It's made a real difference to me and my output as well. So with the en routes, I don't have a lot to talk about because obviously the blurred line sweater is still ongoing, but I also started with the swatch for the bark sweater, and I purposefully chose this yarn because it's the bark sweater, and the British Breeds Corriedale, Romney Corriedale mix from John Arbon, is that kind of mushroom brown colour, so it's a colour that I really love. We call it sludge within my friendship. We are well known for my love of sludgy colours, and that's exactly what it is, but it's very apt for, I think, the design of the jumper and the name of it, because it's kind of the colour of bark, and it's got a slight silveriness through it, so not dissimilar to silver birch bark. So, and I really love the texture of this yarn. It's beautiful. So soon this will be on my hook. So we're on to Feeding the Habit, and my solstice to solstice yarn ban continues, and I'm really pleased I'm doing it because I was tidying up before we had guests coming over, and I was also looking for a specific type of yarn that I wanted to quickly have a squidge of, and I wasn't even in my stash palace. I was in the stuff that was waiting to go back into the stash palace, having been frozen, and there was so much of it even just there without going into the stash palace, and I was just like, yeah, this is enough. And as I was doing it, Matthew was having a bath right outside where I was, and I said, I'm a little bit grossed out by this and how much yarn I've got, and he was trying to justify it lovingly. He was saying, but it's your job and it's your hobby and you really, really love it and it makes you so happy. And I was like, yep. But it's got to the point, most definitely, where actually I've got enough, and I feel a bit icky about the fact that I've got so much yarn. So definitely the right decision to do my yarn ban. And I'm telling you, it's difficult because I'm still seeing yarns that I want, but all I'm doing is creating a little list of yarns that I think are really special, and that come the 21st of December, maybe I would buy myself a skein of for a specific project. But I think my days of just wantonly buying as much yarn as I like are well and truly over, and I'm looking forward to working through a load of the stuff that I've got in my stash, because I've got beautiful things in there. I don't need to keep on adding. It definitely helps that I've got a friend that is also going through the solstice to solstice yarn ban with me. However, I don't know where she got this from. She's taken it from June to June, so she's doing a full year, whereas I'm doing the 6 months. I thought we were on the same page with the 6 months thing, and then she tells me she's doing a full year. So if I get to the 21st of December and I'm still feeling a bit grossed out by the amount of yarn that I've got, and I haven't got through enough other yarn, then I might move it forward for another 6 months. But it's going to make things like a yarn deal interesting. And I guess the thing for me is, one of the reasons I buy so much yarn is because I want to be able to support my industry. I want to spend money with my industry, and I want to make my money count with the people that I think need supporting and deserve to be supported. So that's one of the things that I'm going to struggle with over the next few months. but equally I can support them in other ways. I can boost them on Instagram, I can talk about their patterns, I can talk about their yarns, and there are other ways for me to support them without spending money and without bringing more yarn into the house. But every now and then there's a little, oh, I'd really like that. Oh, no, I'm not allowed. And I will stick to it. I'm quite dogged about stuff. When I decide that I'm doing something, that's it. You will not change my mind. That's it. I'll do it. And there's no mucking about. Mindset, let's go. So that's how it will be with this yarn ban. So, whilst I haven't been buying anything, I was sent something very lovely through the post. There's a really lovely lady on Instagram called Lorna, and she is Never at a Loose End on Instagram, and she is an amazing crafter, and I really mean that. She can turn her hand to anything. She's always doing lessons, she's always doing workshops, there's always something different happening on her grid. She's lovely and very engaging, and her daughter Ailey is an illustrator. And so the other day, this just turned up totally out of the blue. I did not know it was coming. And Lorna sent me through this lovely print of Ailey's. And it's all of the animals that we tend to get fibre from. So we've got a rabbit on top of a sheep, on top of a goat, on top of a alpaca, on top of bison. And they all have this one scarf intertwined around all of them, and on the scarf it says all wool is yarn, but not all yarn is wool, which I love because I'm a bit of a stickler. I like to try and get it right on the podcast, and sometimes my mouth runs away with me, but wool is wool, and wool can be called yarn, but if your yarn isn't 100% wool, then you can't call it wool. Wool is only something that is 100% wool. So sheep fibre. That's it. Everything else is yarn. And if you had a skein of yarn that was 99% wool and 1%, let's say, mohair or alpaca, that then becomes yarn. It is not wool any longer because it's been blended. But if it's 100% wool from sheep and sheep only, then it's wool. If it's got anything else in it, you can only call it yarn. So I love this because it makes that point very nicely. And it's all, the whole print is done with kind of pinks and purples and corals, and it's beautiful. So I'm going to frame this up and have it in my office. In the next, I would say, month or a couple of months probably, I've got 3 more yarn shows to do, and then I'm done for the season, and I'm going to collapse in a heap. Come mid-September, that's when my last show is, and then there will just be a puddle of fae because frankly I'm shattered. When I come back out at the end of that, I'm going to rejig some of the bits and pieces of my office. So I've got a wall over to my right which has got a pegboard on it, and I want to put up some more nice prints. I've got other bits and pieces around the rest of the office, but the wall that I'm talking about is the wall that I stand and look at. It's where my computer screen is, it's where my desk is, and so I just want to make it a little bit more appealing and have some nice bits and pieces up there. So this is one of the things that will be going up. And the other thing that will go up, I wasn't going to show you this, but actually I will, because it's beautiful and it's well worth showing off. Hold on a second. I put it away because I'm getting ready for a show and I didn't want it to get done. Try and get it so I've not got reflection. This was one of my birthday presents, and it was from Charlie from the Love Charlie podcast, and she had taken a look at one of my favourite parts in Scotland, which is Glencoe, and she's painted me a watercolour of Glencoe. It's absolutely beautiful, and she's framed it up for me, and this is my birthday present, so it was just really lovely. I will pop it in. I'll pop a photo of it in the show notes as well, but it's very evocative of Scotland, and I even know exactly where that I know exactly where the photo was taken from. I know where the vantage point is because I was stood there in May with Matthew and my dad. So that was another incoming, and whilst it's not kind of particularly wool or yarn related in subject, it comes from somebody who's in our community and who is lovely and I consider a very good friend, and that speaks volumes because I love this community. I love how supportive it is in general, not everything, but in general. And you know, I have lots and lots of friends. You guys with the Crochet Clan, it's lovely. My community and my people, vast majority of them come from crafting, and it's lovely. So to receive bits and pieces like this, and the print from Lorna via her daughter Ailey is just lovely. It's yeah. So I'm going to have a little rejig of my office and put some really nice bits and pieces up, including those two things. So I'm going to slot this bit in because there's just been a knock at the door and it's a delivery. So let me go and open it up because then I can show you what's just arrived. Okay. So I showed you the 2-colour version of Kinbane, but I've just got the patterns back. It's always, it's a real mixture of excitement and nerve-wracking when a pattern comes back because you think you've done it all properly. For me, I take all the photos, I do all of the layout, I work with the printer. The only bit that I outsource for my patterns for the printed copies, and this goes for the electronic bit, is Deb, who does my tech editing, and she is amazing, and the printing, and that's it. Absolutely everything else within one of my patterns is 100% me. So by the time I get them back from the printer, you're just kind of like, are there any mistakes? Did I get all the layout properly? Has it all worked? And taking a quick sneak peek at this one, I think we're good. I think it's all okay, thankfully. Yeah. Whew, I'm chuffed, but it also means I'm on the ferry in 2 days, so great that I've got these back in time. It was all just a bit of a mad rush towards the end, so yeah, I'm really pleased they've turned up and they seem to be okay. And this is the first time ever, I had a spare page on the back page, but it's the first time I've put a little, used the back pages for, and other designs available from Dashper-Hughes. It's really quite nice to see some of my other designs in there. Just, I don't really give myself enough credit, I don't think, for the amount of work that I put into my designs, and yeah, just the fact that I am a designer. It still feels weird, it really does, but that's what I am. And so it's nice to see a little montage of some of my designs on the back. I feel a bit sick now for even mentioning it. I'm ridiculous about this stuff, I just need to get over it. I wonder if the really big name designers still feel sick when they see their work or their names are mentioned, or are they just so used to it, it's all fine. So whilst I've got this out, I have already uploaded Kinbane onto Ravelry. I was going to wait until Friday because the pattern goes live on Saturday for the festival, but actually that's just too much hassle while I'm trying to set up for the show as well. So Kinbane is live on Ravelry. It is £4, or you can go to my website. I'll pop a link into the show notes, and there I've got a pay what you can set up for my patterns. So on Ravelry it is one standard price, and on my website you can pay anywhere between £2 and £6 for one of my patterns. If you're buying it with the hard copy, you automatically get a digital download, but the hard copy is always priced at £4 because obviously I've got the printing costs. So up to you how you want to do it, and if you want it at all. So if for whatever reason you struggle to be able to afford to buy patterns, pop to my website because they're available up there for £2 each. I put a lot of effort into my patterns. You know, there's little bits and pieces I'll always do in my patterns, such as, this is one of the things I've done this time round. I've added little colour coordinated boxes so that you would know what colour you're meant to be working on. And for at the end of every row you've got a little circle so you can tick off and show where you are in your pattern. You also get that sense of ticking off like another row. And one of the developments I've made this time, and I've started any extra copies that I now get reprinted, I'm changing the format on that too. But if you get the electronic or the print version of the pattern, and this particularly applies to electronic, is I've started taking the text off of the images on the supporting images and I've put them down below. And what that means is if you have a visual impairment and you use a reader, then it will start to pick up the text that is at the bottom of each of the photos. If it was on the photo, then the reader doesn't pick it up. So I had a lovely listener who's been giving me some good sage advice on how I can make my patterns more user-friendly for people with visual impairments. It's lovely that she's been able to help me because I want to make my patterns as accessible as possible. So it's lovely to make that start and to be able to go back and readdress some of the layout issues in some of my older patterns. So Kimbane is up and ready and going. And if you're going to Yarn Folk, then I think there will be two versions there. So both the 3-colour version I think is going to be on the John Arbon stand, and I think the 2-colour version will be on the Riverknit stand. And if you're going to the festival, there's a download code in your programme so you can get it for free straight off of Ravelry. I'm very proud of this. I've also been doing all of the wood lasering merchandise for Yarn Folk as well, so if you're going you'll see some of my other bits and pieces that I've been working on as Knit It, Hook It, Craft It. So there's been a lot of work going on this month trying to get everything ready and timelined in for the festival on Saturday, but I've done it. It's all done. Very proud of this one. I love this shawl. It's very wearable. Are you going to behave? Are you going to be a good pod kitten? Or are you going to be a naughty pod kitten? Which one? Can we have the good pod kitten? You going to come and say hello? Come on. Hello, baby boy. Come here. Hey. Hello, beautiful. Come say hello. Hello. This fellow was missing for hours on Sunday. Hours and hours and hours, weren't you? It was our fault because the batteries on his cat flap had gone. He couldn't get in. I'm gonna purr. But I was beside myself. In my gut, I knew he was okay, but Pom is my little shadow, so if he's not right beside me or on my lap when I'm crafting, then I really feel it. Hey. Hello, gorgeous boy. That's a big purr. Right. What have we got left on, Moo? What have we got left? So, the next bit is all quick news beats. And just to let you know that the next global hookup is on August the 17th, which is the Saturday night. That starts at 8 PM. I think we're still in BST at that point. And then on the Sunday at 9 AM in the morning. That's what AM means. And it would be lovely if you want to come and join us. It's been really nice to have. We've got a lovely mix of folk in the sessions, all ages, everything. It's just lovely. And yes, it would be lovely to have you in if you want to come and join. It's very relaxed. Just come and it's like an online international crafting group, but we happen to all be online, and you can see all of the people if you put on the gallery view. So it's just lovely, and we've got different accents, we've got people from all over the world, and it's good fun. So it'd be lovely if you wanted to join us that weekend. Are you going? He's off. Sorry, that was Pom, who's molting, so I've now got like a total cloud of pom fur everywhere. There's literally, I can see fibres floating. It's up my nose, it's everywhere. Unusual for Pomeroy to have been in. He's I was thinking last night that he's not been on the podcast for ages. There you go, there's your little pom fix for probably the next year. Although if you follow me on Instagram and you go to my stories, you get quite a lot of Pom there, because he is my fur baby. There's no getting around that. Pom. He is my fur baby, but he's just dumped loads of hair in my coffee. So I love him a little less. Right, next bit's on Big Up is... not Big Up. Next bit's on Quick News Beat. The Healthy Crochet interview that I did with Lindsay from Phoenix Occupational Health is up online. Go and have a look at it. There's the audio version available, and there is also a video version available, and I've linked to both of them already in the show notes. So go forth and have a look. I've had lots of lovely feedback on that interview, and it's been downloaded quite a lot, particularly on audio. So I know that people are getting the benefit, and it's from the feedback that I've had, people are thinking about their crafting slightly differently, and they've got some good hints and tips out of that interview. It's a very informal interview. It is literally Lindsay and I sat outside because it was a glorious day. We're sat outside in my garden having a bit of a chinwag and a chat about how people crochet, and maybe some of the things that they can do to crochet in a healthier way. Now, when I say crochet, I think it applies to crafting across the board. So whether you're a knitter or a sewer, whatever you are, I think it applies to all of that as well. And we've provided a load of links in the show notes for that episode too. So Lindsay has signposted us to some kind of healthcare resources that you might want to have a look at. So yeah, go forth and enjoy the interview. And then the final one for Quick News Beats is I have got 2 tickets up for grabs for the Southern Wool Show, which is on at Newbury Racecourse in the south of England, hence Southern Wool Show. And it's on Saturday the 31st of August and Sunday the 1st of September. I'll be there vending. It's my second to last show of the season. And it's a lot of fun. I did it last year for the first time. So if you fancy being in with the chance of getting tickets, basically leave me a message either on the Podbean app or on the drop down box and start your message with the Southern Wool Show, and that way I can quickly flick through the comments and I can see what it is that you're saying to me basically. But just leave me a comment, say Southern Wool Show, and then I know who I'm picking out, and I'll randomly number generate who the winner is. And yeah, so 2 tickets up for grabs, and I'll just do it once. So whoever wins gets both tickets, and I've already got them. I've got them electronically, so I'll be able to just pass them straight to you. So there's no faffing about picking up tickets or anything else. I will just email them to you. So if you win, and I tell you you've won, I just need your email address. I think Tamara won them last year, which is great because she just moved back to the UK and it was her first fibre festival in the UK, having moved back over from Houston. So yeah, and she made good use of those tickets, so hopefully we'll have a lovely winner this time round too. I'm going to move on to Big Up, and I've got 2 for you. And the first one is about a really awesome cal that's coming up, and I mean cal as in crochet along and knitting along and knit along. And it's something that is being run by two people. The first is Lady Di, who is a US based yarn dyer, and the second is a lady called Jasmine from the Knit More Girls podcast. And the cal is all about Rhinebeck and inclusivity and Rhinebeck. So Rhinebeck is a massive deal. I guess the nearest equivalent in terms of size and hype is Edinburgh Yarn Festival for us in the UK, but you will have heard people talking about the New York Sheep and Wool Festival show, which is Rhinebeck. It just happens to be held in Rhinebeck, as I understand it. It's huge, thousands and thousands of people go, but lots of people can't make it, so they tend to make Rhinebeck sweaters. And what Lady Di and Jasmine are up to is that they have created this cal which is all about inclusivity. So the whole purpose is you pick a BIPOC designer and yarn that is from a BIPOC producer or yarn dyer, and that's what you make. They've even put in some colour suggestions for you, which are, let me just find them. They have pulled together purple, green, blue, golden yellow and black. They are the colours, and you can use one of those or all of those. I don't think you have to use their colours, but I think they're looking for a particular colour palette for the Rhinebeck sweater. And the cal is, I think most of it is being hosted on Instagram. They are still thrashing out the details. This is a very new crochet and knit along, but you're looking for, so normally there's a hashtag which is Rhinebeck sweater, and the hashtag for this is Rhine BIPOC sweater. So it's hashtag RHINEBIPOC sweater. And I am joining in because I 100% want to show solidarity for inclusivity, and I want to be part of that within our fibre industry. So they have a bundle already set up on Ravelry, which you can go and find, and you can filter down to the crochet things that are in that bundle. I think there's about 150 of them, something like that, maybe even more. Loads of garments in there. And again, lots of the patterns are free, so you don't have to go and buy patterns. I think the pattern that I'm looking at is free, but what I will do is find out if that designer has a Ko-fi account, or I will buy them a pattern from their Ravelry queue. So I'm paying it forward back to them because I don't want to just use a free pattern personally. I want to be able to support them. And then because I'm not buying yarn, what I will do is look to my stash for a BIPOC yarn dyer that I have already bought from within the UK. I don't tend to buy yarns from America, so I can't do that, and it's not within my kind of yarn ban interests anyway. And there are lots of UK indie dyers that are BIPOC or BAME that you can actually support as well. So that is what I'm going to do. So please go and have a look at it. I've put all the details into the show notes. But like I said, this is a really new project, so I don't think they've fleshed out all of the ideas yet. Rhinebeck is on the 19th and 20th of October. So I think the timeline is obviously going to be to get it done before Rhinebeck. So I guess before the morning of the 19th is when the make along will finish. And it'll be lovely to see what you're all up to. They've asked you to use the hashtag. Great if you could also use Crochet Clan, because then I can see, well, we can all see and share any other projects that are being done for the Rhine BIPOC sweater along. I think it's a fantastic idea, and the way that they've approached it is that they want to push inclusivity, but they want to do it in a very positive manner, and I think this really is, and I want to be a part of it. I want to support it, and I want to show my solidarity for it. So once I have finished Blurred Lines, and my bark sweater, the next thing on for me is going to be something for Rhinebeck for this make-along. Who's in? Who else is going to join? It'd be lovely to have loads of us doing the same, because I know how the crochet clan feels about this issue, and yeah, we've lost some people along the way. Good riddance. If you can't support inclusivity and diversity and solidarity from within the podcast, then I'm happy to not have you on board. I made that perfectly clear in January, and I stick to it now. So my other big up is for Claudia. Claudia is doing something brilliant. So Claudia spends quite a lot of time crocheting, and so what she's done is set up a Twitch channel. I'd seen Twitch, I'd seen the logo before, but I didn't really know what it was. And Twitch is basically a TV channel where you can go in and you can interact with people if you're online at the same time that they're online. And so Claudia is now doing this on a regular basis, and she's crocheting away, and you will see that there's a comments bar to the right hand side, and you can interact with Claudia and ask her questions and comment on what it is that she's saying as she's crocheting, and then she will respond to your comments live. But the great thing about Twitch is that once it's happened, that content doesn't then just disappear. It actually stays up there. So you can go back into her channel and just go and spend some time with Claudia. So let's say you're working on a massive project and you just want somebody to keep you company. You might live really remotely. You might be a carer for someone. You might just have loads of crochet time on your hands, but you don't want to sit alone. Then you can sit and have a crochet buddy in Claudia. And she's been doing it for about the last 3 to 4 weeks now. So she's got a number of Twitch videos that you can go and have a look at, and I'm seeing some familiar names in there that are going and viewing her content, which I'm really chuffed about. And she was talking in her last one, she was talking about maybe doing a later night one so that people from the UK could join in, which I think is lovely, and I would love that to be the case. So when I went and had a look at it the other day, I didn't have to sign up for an account. I could literally go to Twitch TV, and then in the search bar I looked for Claudia's channel, just typed in Crochet Luna, and up she popped. So I've added links into the show notes so you can go and check out Claudia and go and spend some time with her too. Claudia is one of my favourite people in this industry. She's positive, upbeat, bubbly, lovely, creative. She's good people, and I always enjoy spending time with her. She's quite often in the global hookups, and she's good fun. She's lovely. So good on her for trying something completely different and trying to bring crochet content and like crochet inclusion to more people. I think it's brilliant. Right. I think we're done. This may be an extremely small podcast, so apologies if it is. It's the way life is at the moment. I think I've mentioned quite a few times, I'm off to Ireland in 2 days, so if you could see around me, it is like a disgrace all the way around my office, and I have literally cleared out a little channel that I can walk through to be able to podcast. And then I will put it all away and continue packing all the boxes and the crates and getting everything ready to head to Ireland. So yeah, it's a short and sweet one this time, and we'll see where next month takes us. It's probably going to be the same next month actually, because it's another full-on month with shows. And then, like I say, come mid-September, I'm going to sit on my backside and I'm going to craft and craft and craft and do everything that I want to do, and just take a bit of time out, because yeah, I can't keep on going at this pace. That's one of the things that I recognised with the interview with Lindsay, is that maybe my pace of life is not sustainable and not all that healthy, and I maybe need to just chill out and have some time off every now and then. So mid-September, that will be me. Right, I am scooting I shall see you on Instagram if you're over there. And if you are looking for the Southern Wool Show tickets, I probably should have told you that I'm going to do that just over a 7-day period, so it's a quick turnaround. Yeah, right, rambling, going. See you soon. Have a lovely August. See some of you in Whitehead. Bye bye. Maybe today you can not fidget with your hair and not let little mice ears come out to play. Hair always looks weird. Come on. Hello and welcome to the Project Circle podcast. What's the Project Circle podcast? Crochet Circle podcast. Crochet Circle podcast. I wish I could turn the camera around, but we've got a wall that is just goes round here and it's got a flat top to it, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red admiral butterflies, all with their wings out, lying flat against the wall, sunbathing essentially. And I won't even go out and disturb them and take a photo because it's beautiful to see them. And they're just lapping up all the heat. I will leave them to it. Very nice to see them though. Right. So some quick news bits for you. Or will I quickly go for a wee? I might quickly go for a wee and top up my coffee.